You were promised that if you were a good person, life would eventually be good to you. Be loyal, be patient, don't rock the boat, and the system would notice. But look at what actually happened. You watched less loyal co-workers promoted while you covered their mistakes. You spent nights listening to friends cry, giving them advice that saved them, and then they vanished as soon as they felt better. You forgave partners who lied, cheated, and crossed every boundary, believing your love would heal them, and they walked away anyway. Sometimes with someone who treated them worse. If you're honest, you can feel it in your own story. The people who tried hardest to be good are often the ones carrying the deepest scars. That is not random. The world does not reward Navi goodness. It rewards people who understand power and perception. In a ruthless environment, being good in the soft, obedient way you were taught carries a cost you were never warned about. People learn that your time is flexible, your boundaries are negotiable, and your forgiveness is guaranteed. They stop looking at you as a person and start seeing you as a resource, a free therapist, a backup plan, a safe emotional landfill. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He was not writing for saints. He was writing for rulers, trying to stay alive in a world of ambitious rivals, desperate subjects, and smiling enemies. In that world, a leader who clung to pure morality was not admirable. Machiavelli asked a brutal question: is it better to be loved or feared? His answer was cold but honest. Love is fragile when fear is absent because people's interests change. They love you while it is convenient. They love you while you are useful. But fear of consequences, of lines that cannot be crossed, that is what anchors loyalty when the wind shifts. He judged actions by outcomes, not intentions. Good intentions that produce weakness and chaos were, to him, not good at all. Now bring that lens into your life. Your family, your job, your relationships are not technically medieval courts, but the human nature inside them is almost identical. People weigh what they can get away with. They test how far you will bend. If your goodness always means you bend further, they adjust. They give you less respect and more demands. They tell themselves you are strong enough to handle it, when really you are just too afraid to stop bleeding. This video is not an invitation to become cruel or heartless. It is an invitation to finally see the bill attached to your goodness. Because most people never question the price. They only notice when their bank account is empty, their energy is gone, and the people they protected the most are nowhere to be found. If you don't understand the cost of being good, you will keep funding everyone else's comfort with your life. In the next minutes, you're going to learn 7 specific costs that good people pay every day without realizing it, and more importantly, how to stop paying them. And the first, most brutal cost is simple. When your goodness has no boundaries, people stop respecting you and start simply using you, leading into cost 1 for you personally. There's a difference between being valued and being used, and most good people only realize it when it is too late. Being useful means people like what you do for them. Being respected means they hesitate before asking and fear what losing you would cost. The world will gladly take usefulness without ever giving you respect. When your reflex is to say yes, to fix what others break, to be the dependable one who absorbs every inconvenience, you slowly downgrade yourself from person to tool. Tools are appreciated while they work, then tossed aside the second they are no longer needed. Machiavelli would call this political suicide. He wrote that a ruler must arrange things so others need him more than he needs them. Yet, goodness flips this. You end up needing to be needed, while everyone around you learns they can rely on you without consequences. In the office, you see it clearly. You stay late to repair other people's mistakes, take projects no one else wants, soothe angry clients, and cover gaps your manager ignores. At first, they praise you for being such a team player. Soon, it becomes normal. Your extra effort is no longer a gift. It is the minimum they expect. When leadership positions open, they do not see you as a leader. They see you as the one who keeps the machine running quietly in the background. Promoting you would mean losing their favorite buffer. In your personal life, it is the same pattern. You are the friend who organizes everything, drives everyone, listens for hours, and rarely asks for anything back. People say you are the rock, but rocks get stood on. Birthdays, decisions, and invitations are built around more exciting personalities, while you are summoned when something needs to be cleaned up. Your goodness with no boundaries has taught. Them a simple rule. They can have your time and effort without cost. If your goodness only makes you convenient, you are not being kind. You are being quietly mine. True respect does not grow from endless availability. It grows from self-regard and limits. People respect what they cannot automatically reach and what they know they could genuinely lose. The more you prove you will always be there, no matter how you feel, the easier you are to take for granted. And once the world has labeled you as permanently useful, a darker type of person starts circling, because predators and parasites are experts at sniffing out exactly this kind of unguarded resource. They are not looking for strength. They are looking for softness, compliance, and guilt. The perfect combination to drain someone who still believes goodness alone will protect them. Goodness doesn't just leave you unprotected. It functions like a beacon in the dark. Predators and parasites are always scanning the room for the same thing, a giver with weak claws. They are charming when they need to be, needy when it's convenient, dominant when it works. But underneath it all, they are running calculations who here will tolerate being drained, guilt-tripped, or controlled. The consistently polite one, the one who apologizes when bumped into, the one who says, "It's fine, don't worry about it," even when it obviously isn't. To them, that person isn't admirable. That person is a target. The typical good person lives with the belief that everyone has good intentions deep down. They think evil is rare and obvious, that it wears a mask you can see coming. The Machiavellian mind knows better. It understands that some people exist to feed on the unguarded, and their hunger is dressed in friendliness, vulnerability, or flattery. Machiavelli warned that a ruler must always ask who benefits from his softness. Those who gain the most from your inability to say no are the ones most invested in keeping you that way. Look at the partner who moves into your home and your finances with alarming speed. At first, it feels romantic, like you are building a life together. Then you realize you are paying for everything, while they invest nothing but excuses. Or the friend who only appears with big requests, a place to crash, a large loan, a major favor, and disappears the moment their crisis is resolved. Or the boss who figures out quickly that the nice employee will take the extra workload, stay late, and never push back, so they quietly dump on you what others refuse. In each case, your kindness isn't invisible. It is a detailed map showing exactly where to bite. Predators don't hunt the toughest prey. They hunt the kindest one without claws. Goodness without suspicion is like walking through a battlefield in white, assuming no one would dare stain you. The more blindly good you are, the more brightly you shine for the worst people in the room. And as they gather around you, something even more dangerous happens. To protect your identity as the good one, you start blinding yourself to who they really are, which leads directly to the next cost, where your own ideals become the veil that hides reality from you today. One of the cruelest costs of being good is that you start lying to yourself in the name of kindness. You tell yourself you're seeing the best in people, giving grace, not being judgmental. In reality, you're closing your eyes while someone reaches for the knife. Blindness wrapped in morality is still blindness. It just feels noble while it walks you to the edge. You know this pattern. Someone lies to you over and over, and every time you discover it, you say, they're under a lot of stress. They didn't mean it. Your body knows something is off, but your conscience overrules it. Or the partner who slowly tightens control over your money, insults you when no one's around, then cries and apologizes with a tragic story about their past. Instead of naming it as abuse, you whisper, everyone deserves another chance, and the cycle restarts. Machiavelli would call this madness. He wrote that those who act only as they wish the world to be will be destroyed by how it truly is. A ruler who insists that men are naturally loyal, grateful, and honest will build policies on that fantasy and then be shocked when soldiers desert, nobles defect, and allies sell him for a better price. The world does not bend to your beliefs about people. It reveals them. Your job isn't to rewrite the facts until they feel warm. It's to study them until they're clear. Here is the contrast. The Machiavelli good person clings to ideals, even when the evidence screams otherwise. But they're a good person, deep down, becomes a spell that erases every red flag. The strategist still believes in good, but refuses to let hope overrule data. When actions and words conflict, they believe actions. When patterns contradict promises, they trust patterns. That's not cynicism, it's survival. The more you insist on seeing only the good, the more invisible the knives become. You sacrifice safety and clarity to protect your image of being open-minded and non-judgmental. But your refusal to judge behavior doesn't protect you. It protects the person harming you. This form of blindness isn't virtue. It is self-betrayal dressed as tolerance. Reality doesn't care how kind your beliefs are. It punishes what you refuse to see. And the punishment isn't only emotional. By misreading people and situations this badly, you start making choices that directly sabotage your progress and power, which is the next hidden cost of goodness. When you finally accept that facts matter more than feelings, you stop playing defense in everyone else's story and begin positioning yourself like someone who plans to survive, not just forgive. In this world that you are not only being held back by other people, a big part of the damage comes from the way your goodness makes you attack your own progress. You turn down opportunities because you don't want to outshine friends or family. You soften your wins so no one feels small next to you. You share credit and give visibility to people who barely showed up because you're afraid of being seen as arrogant. You say yes to other people's needs, projects, and crises, even when your own work is starving. On the surface, it looks like humility. Underneath, it is self-sabotage. Machiavelli would call this a fatal misunderstanding of power. Power is supposed to be consolidated, stabilized, and then used wisely, not endlessly redistributed to anyone who might feel insecure when you rise. A prince who gives away land, soldiers, and gold to keep everyone happy doesn't create loyalty. He creates rivals and opportunists who now possess pieces of his strength. You do the same thing when you casually give away leverage you bled for. Think of the creator who trains a friend in the exact strategies that built their audience, only to watch that friend copy their style, steal their hooks, and siphon away viewers. Or the professional who hands out contacts, insider knowledge, and reputation capital to co-workers who later undercut them in meetings and promotion. In both cases, the good person tells themselves, "I'm just being generous. There's enough for everyone." But the reality is harsher. Every time you give away leverage without strategy, you volunteer to stay beneath people you could surpass. Goodness confuses self-betrayal with humility. Real humility is knowing you are human despite your power. Self-betrayal is pretending you have no right to protect what you've earned. True strength recognizes that guarding your gains is sometimes the most ethical choice, not only for you, but for the people who quietly depend on your stability. When you keep sabotaging your own position, you don't just hurt yourself, you weaken every future you could have built, every person you might have lifted from a place of real security. If your goodness keeps shrinking your life, it is not moral, it is sabotage dressed as virtue. And when you finally start trying to protect yourself, you'll notice another cruel cost emerge. Your own guilt becomes everyone's favorite weapon. They will say you changed, that you've become selfish, that the old you was better because the old you never said no. Learning to hear those accusations without folding is the turning point between living as a powerless provider and living as someone who can no longer be moved by guilt on command. That shift is where strategy begins. Guilt is the invisible leash wrapped around the neck of most good people. You feel it every time you even think about saying no. You feel it when you finally set a boundary and immediately want to soften it. You feel it when you do 90% for someone and still wonder if you should have done more. That hypersensitivity to guilt is the perfect control mechanism for anyone who benefits from your weakness. They don't need chains when a sentence can move you. You know the lines by heart. I thought you were different. After everything I've done for you, a good person would help. Those phrases are not random. They are weapons designed to push the exact buttons your upbringing installed. The average helper hears them and folds, terrified of being seen as selfish or cruel. A Machiavellian mind hears the same words and asks, "Who gains if I obey this feeling?" Machiavelli would say a prince must never let his rule be dictated by the moral judgments of those who profit from his softness. If your virtue only ever benefits the people asking for more, it isn't virtue, it is programming. Look at how family often uses this. "In this family, we respect elders" becomes code for "do what I want, no matter how unreasonable I am." Family helps family really means you're not allowed to have boundaries with me. Partners do it as well. They dodge their responsibilities, overspend cross lines, then accuse you of being selfish. The moment you stop cleaning up after them, the problem is not that you care. The problem is that your conscience has been hijacked. Goodness rooted in guilt isn't goodness at all. It's emotional blackmail you've internalized and now enforce on yourself. True ethics come from choice, not compulsion. They come from looking at a situation clearly and deciding, even if no one knew, this is what I believe is right. When being good always feels like being guilty, someone has rewritten your morals for their benefit. People who control your guilt don't need cages or threats. They already own your decisions. Once you see that, you also see the next cost by letting guilt silence your anger and your limits. You don't just hurt yourself, you quietly protect the very harm you claim to stand against, which is how Nabi goodness starts enabling genuine evil. And once your goodness protects harm instead of confronting it, you are no longer just a victim of the game. You are helping it run. That is the next cost. Every time you stay silent to stay good, you quietly strengthen the worst people in the room more than they could ever thank you. The hardest truth for good people to swallow is this: your endless tolerance doesn't just hurt you, it protects the very behavior you hate. Every time you cover for someone's lies, soften the story, or stay quiet to keep the peace, you become a shield between them and the consequences they deserve. You think you are absorbing the damage so others don't have to, but in reality, you are redirecting that damage onto yourself and everyone who will meet that person after you. That is what enabling looks like. Machiavelli would have called it dangerous softness. He wrote that sometimes cruelty, well used, prevents greater harm, and that a ruler who avoids necessary conflict to look merciful eventually destroys his own state. Translate that into modern life, and you see it everywhere. In companies with a fake, nice culture, a toxic top performer is allowed to bully, sabotage, and poison morale because leadership doesn't want to be harsh with someone who brings in money. Good employees leave, the worst one stays, and the whole system quietly rots while everyone smiles in meetings. Or in a friend group, there is always one manipulative, drama-driven person who lies, divides, and drains everyone. Instead of confronting them, the group excuses it. They're going through a lot. That's just how they are. The nicest people in the room preach understanding, while the most harmful person keeps expanding their territory. Goodness confuses passivity with compassion. It believes that doing nothing is kinder than risking a fight. A strategist sees the opposite. Unchecked, harm grows. What you refuse to confront doesn't disappear, it spreads. And the longer you shield it, the more innocent people it consumes. The cost of your goodness is no longer just your private pain. It is the collateral damage suffered by everyone your silence failed to protect. Evil doesn't always win because it is strong. It often wins because the good people refuse to draw bloodlines, the hard lines that say, this stops here, even if it makes you hate me. Your silence can become the most powerful protection your enemy has. When you finally understand that, you see the final, deepest cost of Navi goodness. You lose yourself completely, dissolving into a role no one protects, which is where the seventh cost begins. Instead of being a person with boundaries and a voice, you become a quiet buffer that evil hides behind. People point to you and say, see, it can't be that bad. They're fine with it, while you slowly erase your own needs, values, and anger. That erasure of self is the doorway to the last and most devastating cost. It is where your identity begins to die. You can play the role of the good one for so long that you forget you are playing anything at all. You become the bigger person, the forgiver, the fixer, the peacemaker. You swallow your anger, mute your needs, and smooth over every rough edge in the room so no one else has to feel discomfort. People start to treat this as your job description. They come to you for forgiveness, understanding, and stability, not because they see you, but because they have learned you will not break character. The tragedy is that the more perfectly you play this role, the more invisible your real self becomes. Beneath the calm face, burnout builds. You feel a quiet resentment you're ashamed to admit. You look in the mirror and don't know what you want, only what everyone else expects from you. You are exhausted and unappreciated, yet trapped, because stepping out of the part feels like betraying your entire identity. Machiavelli would see this clearly. A prince who tries to appear purely virtuous, he warned, invites exploitation from those less scrupulous. When you are determined to be seen as endlessly good, ruthless people quickly understand they can sin and then confess. To you, for free, they take your mercy as permission, not as a warning. They know you will forgive, absorb, and fix while they return to their appetites untouched. Think of the parent who sacrifices everything, gives up dreams, time, health, and then discovers their adult children treat them like an ATM with feelings. Or the employee who gives their life to a company, never complains, always covers gaps, and is replaced overnight with a short email and a polite lie about restructuring. When your entire identity is built on being good to others, no one is assigned to be good to you. The world loves the role you play, not the person paying the price for it. You become an archetype, a function, a reassuring presence they assume will always be there. And the most shocking part is that you helped write this script. You trained everyone to see you as safe, selfless, and limitless, then wondered why no one rushed to protect you when you finally collapsed. If your whole identity is being good for others, you will spend your life waiting for a rescue that never comes. The escape is not to abandon goodness, but to rebuild it on strategy and self-respect. And that is where we turn next. Who you become when you keep your values, draw sharper lines, and practice a different way of being good for the next 7 days. Those days are the start of a life where goodness finally serves you first. For most of your life, goodness has meant reacting. Someone needed you, you went. Someone crossed a line, you forgave. Someone hinted they might be disappointed, you folded. You were the reactive helper, driven by guilt, missing boundaries, drained and quietly disrespected. That version of you was not weak, it was uninformed. You were trying to play angel in a world full of players. Now you know the bill you've been paying. Usefulness without respect, predators circling you, blindness to reality, sabotaged goals, weaponized guilt, harm you silently enabled, and an identity built entirely around serving everyone but yourself. The answer is not to swing into cruelty. The answer is to become strategically good. Strategically good means you are kind, but not compliant, helpful, but only within limits you choose, morale, but never blind to danger. Your heart still works, but your spine does too. You start valuing long-term outcomes over short-term comfort, protecting your base and using compassion with discernment instead of compulsion. Machiavellian goodness is not the absence of ethics. It is ethics anchored in survival. You understand that saying no to the wrong person is often the most honest yes you can give to your future, your work, and the people who truly rely on you. You can refuse certain requests and still be a deeply ethical person. In fact, your ethics become stronger when they are chosen, not guilt-programmed. To turn this from theory into instinct. Run a 7-day practice. Day 1, say no once where you would usually say yes, and do not over-explain. Day 2, when you notice predator or parasite behavior, don't engage. Day 3, write one harsh truth about a person or situation you've been idealizing. Day 4, reserve a block of time for your own goals and refuse to give it away. Day 5, catch one guilt trip in real time and hold your boundary anyway. Day 6, confront or stop protecting one harmful behavior you've been smoothing over. Day 7, do one thing purely for yourself without apologizing or posting about it. If you stay naively good, you'll keep paying everyone else's bill. If you become strategically good, your goodness finally starts paying you back. The shift from victim to strategist begins the moment you put a price on your own energy. So choose now. Keep being good in a way that quietly destroys you, or become good in a way that protects and empowers you. If you're ready to change, say it publicly in the comments and claim the new role. This is where your old goodness dies and your real power begins today. My kindness has boundaries. I refuse to pay the hidden cost of Navi goodness. My goodness is strategic, not suicidal. I protect my energy as fiercely as my values. I choose clarity over guilt. Drop this affirmation in the comments to claim it. My kindness has boundaries. Tell me in the comments, which cost of goodness have you paid the most, and what will you do differently now? Comment, I see the cost now if this finally explained why being good kept hurting you.